morning.
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 Thank you so much. I think first thing I'm going to mention is manufacturing. You know, I'm here to talk about manufacturing in the shipbuilding industry, and one of the big themes in a lot of conversations we're having right now is that neither of those careers really pop up on anyone's minds when you're growing up, when you're in high school, and so there's just not a lot of exposure to it. And I was kind of interested in what the kind of show up would be this morning if many people saw manufacturing and were like, I'm not going to go, I don't want to know about that. So hopefully with videoing, recording it, we can share it and get it out. So with that, so I'm going to talk a little bit. So EDC, we're the San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation. We are an independently funded nonprofit. We really work with mobilizing our civic leaders, industry partners, and education around, we call it an inclusive economic development strategy. And the goal there is that we work with and through about 150 companies and organizations on employer-led initiatives. And so the goal is to understand the needs of industry and working with those civic leaders, working with education on solutions in the community. And all of that is with 3 goals in mind. Our goals are, one is to grow quality jobs in the region, and we have metrics. So we have a set goal right now. In 2017, we created these goals for ourselves, and the goal is to hit these numbers by the year 2030. So we're getting close. We're constantly reevaluating them, seeing if we're on track. Our goals are to grow San Diego quality jobs by 50,000, to have 20,000 skilled workers receiving certificates and program completions every year by 20,000, and then to grow thriving households by 75,000, which is by far the most challenging in this region. So now I'm just going to do kind of a brief overview, starting very high level, and we'll get down into the sectors we're here to talk about. So let's talk San Diego. Actually, I'm sorry, we're going to talk San Diego and our relationship with Tijuana. We are a mega region. We have an incredible relationship with the Cali Baja regional area. And when it comes to things like manufacturing, we have 7 ports of entry. We have an incredible pool of talent to pull from both San Diego and down in Tijuana. And so you see, if many of you know, and you see that border get quite crowded. Well, a lot of that is people who work and or live across the border from one another. And that's a huge benefit to the region, and that's a huge benefit to industries like manufacturing. San Diego specifically, I think I need to give you these numbers to update your slide. We've grown a little bit. We're at just about 3.2 population, and then our median income has grown a little bit in the last few years. And that is a per household, just wanted to note that. So when we look at households, we do assume that is generally at least 2 people in a household. But one thing that I want to point out is that we have a very young population. We have, I want to say it's about 30% of folks are in, it's really due to the military presence, the amount of universities in the region. And so we have a very young, vibrant community, and that also drives a lot of the innovation that we see. The EDC focuses specifically a lot of our work around what we call the traded clusters. And for us, those would be 1, military, so that's active duty, that's understanding what the active duty presence is here. Innovation, which is your life sciences, aerospace, technology, cybersecurity, and then you've got, of course, tourism, which is the biggest of the employers. We work very closely with like the San Diego Tourism Authority. But our focus is on innovation, is on that innovation part there. Okay, just a look back, highlight all the defense here in the region. This is from, these numbers come from, so SDMAC, San Diego Military Advisory Council, does an annual economic impact study that we help partner with. These numbers are from this last year. Total defense-related jobs, that 369,000, that's a combination of all of our active duty reservists as well as all of our defense contractors in the region who come out of about 1,600 defense contracting companies. And I'll say one of the big statistics with business in San Diego is that 98% of all businesses in San Diego and almost nationally are small businesses. So when we say 1,600 defense contractors, yes, we all know Northrop Grumman's here and BAE and all those big guys, but they're actually, when you look at the numbers, there's a ton of defense contractors here who are self-employed or less than 100 people. And of course we have big defense sectors here. So we have a few that are key and that are stable. We've got shipbuilding, we've got aerospace and cyber, which has been here for a while, but we have a lot that's growing and merging, as Maurice touched on. We've got AI and advanced robotics coming in. Space, of course, now we have a space presence. Space Force now has about 100 officers here set up over at NAVWAR, and that's spawning some space companies as well. And then, of course, unmanned systems, which is really taking off here in the region. Okay, so I'm going to talk about manufacturing. Back in October, we conducted a study on the economic impact of manufacturing in the region, and we focused on those innovation clusters that I had mentioned. In the past, we also did studies on shipbuilding, which I'll touch on as well. But you'll see here the job count. So when we think of manufacturing, and I think this is where there's this mentality of manufacturing being a greasy factory floor, right? I know gentlemen from Workshop from Warriors are going to talk about, you know, that's not the case anymore. We're talking very highly technical, skilled jobs. We're talking about clean rooms, we're talking about labs, we're talking about R&D, and we're also seeing a lot of combination of where you've got engineering touching skilled work jobs. You've got, I mean, we're at this pivotal moment where manufacturing is really burgeoning into something new and innovative, and it's really taking off, and it's really about how do we drive awareness of that to folks looking at the industry or who never considered it before. And you'll see here, so average wages in manufacturing sits just around 103,000. So you'll see there's quite a variety of different types of jobs you can get into, but that really shows the growth potential. We have over 4,000 manufacturing facilities in the region, everything, as I said, from defense, aerospace, tortilla making, breweries, food and beverage, all the way to Taylor Guitars. If you're familiar out in East County, we've got Taylor Guitars here, a pride for San Diego. I think that's about all I got on that page. So here I want to show, this is the top occupations in manufacturing just based off of change, whether they're growing or there might be a few that are going down for whatever anomaly. But what you'll see is half of these don't even mean you need to have a high school degree. So there is a very low barrier of entry to get into manufacturing. And then when you speak to manufacturers, they're very open to growing people. So you might start as a, I don't know, have your packaging filler, but they're gonna be open to growing and teaching you about the business and how do you grow and just stay with the culture of the company. And I think you'll find too, as if you were to look into many of the ones that have, I would say, much better pay, as veterans, you probably have the skills to enter into a lot of those types of occupations. And I know Maurice has some programming that could probably help with that. I think something else I want to point out here is that you'll see one column says industry supply, so that speaks to how many jobs are in manufacturing. Total supply, that speaks to the entire region of San Diego. So for example, with general manager and operations managers, there's about 1,900 who work for manufacturers, but there's about 25,000 of those jobs in the region. So even if you don't stay in manufacturing, you're getting the skills and you're gaining knowledge that you could take to multiple industries within the region. Okay, I'm gonna talk about shipbuilding, and this is a little bit of a pivot. So I'm sure many of you know it's been big in the headlines right now, but there's been a lot of federal attention on growing shipbuilding in the industry. There's a lot of conversations that kind of originated more in the submarine building industry and talking about how the Navy is not on the right path to sustain the amount of ships should we enter any sort of military activity with China. And so there's a lot of focus right now on how do we do that? How do we do that in the United States? How do we grow those industries? Because due to things like severe underinvesting for decades now, we are seeing massive shortages in workforce, in different types of contracting procurement processes are causing issues. I'm getting ahead of myself here, so let me back that up. Sorry, let me back myself up. So talking about shipbuilding, okay. San Diego, y'all know we have tons of ships here. We have the largest installation, we have the largest fleet in the nation here concentrated in San Diego. And smack dab in the middle is the shipyards. You've got GD NASCO, you've got BAE, you've got Austal, and then from there you've got tons of second, third tier suppliers all over the county, all over the region, even some bleeding into Imperial County. These numbers right here, so 15,000 jobs, that does not seem like a lot. That is those companies that are specifically spelled to shipbuilding. That does not include your second, third tier suppliers who do product for multiple types of industries. So that's a harder number to capture right now. But the point here is that San Diego is the only full service shipyard on the West Coast. Our location on the West Coast with the rising tensions with the East is making our shipyards imperative to the industry. We are much smaller than our friends back in the East Coast and Gulf Coast, but we are getting a lot of attention right now. So what I started to say, so there's a lot of issues right now that have been uncovered over the last few years. So as I said, there's a lot of underinvestment, there's workforce shortages, specifically in areas like the skilled workforce, machinists, fabricators, electricians. There's supplier constraints because there's definitely areas where you just don't have enough suppliers in specific areas, or they have specialties that should they not be able to complete work, there's less competition. Infrastructure gaps, how do we modernize the shipyards and how do we provide suppliers with new technologies to speed up and become more efficient? And of course, as I mentioned, there's antiquated procurement processes, and that comes from the federal government. The good news, there is a ton of attention on it, as I mentioned. So what's happening right now, there is 2 bills right now going through Congress that are focused specifically on ships, both commercial and for military use. So there's tens of billions going towards and coming towards revitalizing the shipyards, bolstering commercial fleets, and enhancing naval capacity. There is also one bill that just was introduced last week about upgrading and updating and modernizing procurement processes for the military and providing military leaders a little bit more power on decision making, quicker decision making, so they're able to make these types of decisions at a much speedier, at the pace of technology. And then of course we're looking at how are we going to sustain all of this and how are we going to continue to build up the military. All of this being said, while shipbuilding may not look amazing right now on paper, I think that what we're seeing is a ton of attention on it. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, and I think that anyone looking at a career right now, this could really be a great place to get in on kind of a ground floor, being able to help companies understand what's needed, how to grow, and how to kind of get caught up with the commercial world. So I just was going to highlight really quickly EDC. I specifically oversee, we call it our defense portfolio, so working with those defense companies in the region, working with SDMAC, working with installations. We have a couple different projects that we're working on right now. One is working, we are in a contract right now with Deloitte on a ship and submarine workforce and supplier development project. It works hand in hand with a lot of other organizations in the region that are working on those types of initiatives to really understand industry's needs, help the curriculum and help the training providers in the region understand what those needs are so that there's better alignment, so that as anyone goes through like a training, they can enter the workforce much quicker and they're not having to go through additional training once they get hired. And then, I won't touch on this, but we are partnering with a lot of folks right now on an economic impact study of the naval redevelopment, if you're familiar with that. That does entail keeping about 6,000 cyber jobs in the region, so we're very passionate about making sure that Navigor stays in San Diego. And then I just listed out a lot of the organizations that we work with. Okay, so a couple tools and resources that we provide to anyone looking for jobs right now. We do have a program called The Lead, where we do post jobs that are all here regional in San Diego. So if you're interested and want to take a look, please follow us and you'll get updates as jobs come out. And then we have a program called the Verified Programs. What this is, as I mentioned, we have a talent team, and what they do is they sit down with industry to understand specific needs and where the gaps are of what education is providing, and they're able to connect directly with the educational partners and ensure that there's alignment. And you'll see here, we've done this a few years ago with manufacturing, and this is just a list of some of the organizations that we know. Essentially, industry understands that these organizations have the right curriculum. So if you go and do training with these organizations, you're probably gonna have a better chance of getting a job, and you're gonna know what they need to know. And we do this across multiple industries, and thankfully manufacturing is at the top of our list, and I know Workshop for Warriors is always a strong partner there. And then this is just a QR code to those programs. Okay, I think that's it. Any questions? Okay, Mr. Lott.
I had one.
Yeah.
But you got to go back a few slides to find it.
Okay.
It's the slide right before you got to shipbuilding. That one, that one. So you use the example of industry supply, general manager, 1,937, and then total supply, 25,000. I'm not quite sure I understand. Are you saying that out of 25,000 jobs, there's only 1,900 that are filled? What's?
No, the industry supply is specific to manufacturing. So that's how many jobs are in manufacturing in the region, and that total supply means across the entire any sector, any industry.
Okay.
So that could be general manager, and that's a very loose term. I hate to say that. We use we're using NAICS, which is the North American something code system. So the way we track it is a company, when they have these roles, they are all assigned to a NAICS code, and then we have access to that database. So however a company labels a job is how we pull it. But that's saying that there's over 25,000 general manager and operations managers in the region in different sectors.
Got it. Okay.
So they might be working in a retail store or
okay. Got it. Kind of slow. I got it.
So I have a question. Can you go forward 2 slides? Right there.
Yeah.
So in terms, we know that behavior drives activity. And so we look at some of the risk issues right there, underinvestment, workforce shortages, supply, those all have a human component. Do you have a strategy to overcome the impacts of those? Because again, if you have workforce shortages, because the supply chain is not working, your equipment is not there, it's antiquated. People are like, I don't want to go work there because X, Y, Z. So how's that being approached, looked at?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so a good point there is when it comes to the job specifically, GD NASCO is a perfect example. They have done a lot to, one, increase pay for their people because they're competing. So where this kind of spawns from is, okay, NASCO's competing for a military contract. And with military, it's a race to the bottom, right? Cheapest one wins. So what that does is drives down how much they can pay their people. And that's a systemic problem. And that's something that when we talk about antiquated procurement processes, that needs to be addressed. Because we're competing with Mobile, who has a much lower cost of living. And so if GD's hiring, that person can either come to San Diego where they're gonna have a higher cost of living, or they can go to Mobile and make the same amount, which might still be a decent amount. It's just that their money's gonna go further in Mobile. And that's a huge problem that we're trying to address nationally with multiple partners. We're trying to make Congress understand that. We're working with Congressman Peters very closely on this type of work because it's just a hindrance. We're in our own way by doing that. And so that's something we're looking at. In the process, NASCO has done a lot to step up because they understand that, so they have to address that, and they have made steps in upgrading or increasing pay and trying to match, but those just aren't sustainable for them because at the end of the day, the contracts themselves need to change and how that happens.
So the National Veteran Turnover Rate, one of the organizations, I think it's 45% turnover first year, and then it goes up to 80% turnover second year. What is the turnover rate, for the shipbuilding here in San Diego?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer for that. I don't have a percentage. what happens is that the work flows with the contracts. So if one of the shipyards has a 5-year contract and then they don't have anything after that, what do those workers do after that 5 years? That's also another part of this that has to be addressed. And the problem is these are such massive issues that it's just gonna take a while to fix it. But there is a ton of people working on it. And thankfully with what's going on right now, there's a lot of eyes on it, and there's a lot of funding coming to it, which was one of the biggest issues, is you couldn't fix it without the money either. That also stems into the future of manufacturing and shipyards as far as technology, adding innovation. You know, you've got gaps in certain areas of skill where maybe you can fill with robotics eventually, but the shipyards aren't willing to put millions of dollars into updating and modernizing if they don't know where their next contract's coming from. So that's a whole other component of it that they're trying to look at right now.
And you know, with San Diego being the largest concentration of military, and roughly, 18,000 people transitioning each year, this would be an ideal place to recruit. And so,
Absolutely.
Is that working?
Yes. I can't share a ton about the work we're doing with Deloitte right now because we're unfortunately we have an NDA. I can't say a lot. What I can say is that a veteran pipeline is a significant part of that conversation. And I'll be honest, when I have these conversations, like we do this with more than manufacturing. We're looking at life sciences. I know one of my coworkers was here last month talking about life sciences. We're looking at aerospace. Veterans and veteran pipelines is a massive part of the community's conversations all the time about all of this because we're seeing shortages across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody needs to do a research study on what is happening here because my mind tells me that we're not capturing the right story sometimes, and I think we're just now starting to tap into the right resources. Like, how do we think outside of the box, and how do we build creative pipelines to specific demographics to get them into the industries?
Mission accepted.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Actually, my husband did apply to some shipbuilding positions in the shipyard, and one of the barriers he ran into was, actually, we are experiencing federal funding cuts, and we don't know if we're gonna have this position anymore. So it's very opposite to like what you're sharing, and I want to know, like, how is that part of like ecosystem? Like, what are the things that they're doing? Because again, he did try to break into the industry or re-enter the industry, and then they're like, and then they never like called him back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more like a one-off conversation to understand what, can I ask what industry or what kind of a role it was?
Yeah, it was with wasn't NAVMEC, but it was one of the military sites on here.
Okay.
So it was like a tag out manager. It's like a maintenance tag out manager program. So I had an interview lined up with them, and then a day before the interview, they called me and, hey, this is getting cut, this job's getting cut, and then I applied with EAE as well for a waterfront engineer inspector, and they said that job was getting cut as well.
Yeah.
Due to funding. I don't think it was getting cut, but.
But these were military installations?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not having these conversations as much with the military directly. Our conversations are with industry specific, so we're talking with the corporations who are working on the outside. We're not privy to all the information about that, but I would love to connect with you more.
Oh yeah, because when I got, they're like, we're trying to do this in-house. That's basically what they said.
They're outsourcing.
Yeah, the Navy is trying to do it in-house.
That is a rumor I've heard. I don't have any confirmation, but that's a rumor that I've heard is a lot of what's going on with the federal government, and especially like DoD was told to do like 8% cuts every year annually for the next 5 years. Probably what's happening is there are going to be roles that are going to be outsourced to industry is more likely what's happening. Just a guess.
Any other questions? Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Great presentation.
Okay, really good insights there. Let me just kind of go forward here. So we just heard the
That was great.
sort of the industry overview by the experts here, and we'll definitely be asking Lindsay and others from EDC to come back and talk about other subjects think of no better organization than Workshop for Warriors. My good friend Hernan and his wife, Rachel, we started that journey many, many years ago, and we're really proud to see how they've grown and where they are. But we're gonna get Lyle to come in and just kind of give his story of how it's working, as well as where they are, and you know what's next with Workshop for Warriors, and how easy is it to get into become a trained person, and you know the success rate. I mean, you know, everything you want to tell us.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Right. So, first of all, Workshops for Warriors is honored to be here. Anytime we can share the message of what we do at Workshops for Warriors, I'm all in. I've been with Workshops for Warriors for over 15 years. I believe in the mission. You know, I started welding at a young age, 18 years old in 1977, and I've been welding since. So, do the numbers, it's about 48 years. But this isn't about me. So, right? It's about what I can do for our students and our young men and women who are trying to transition into a career in CNC machining or welding. Those are the two disciplines that we now have over at Workshops for Warriors. And as Lindsay brought to the forefront, there's a big need right now for men and women who can fill these trades. Welding, CNC machining, outside machining, electrician, all the trades on the waterfront with the SIB and the MIB. Our resources are stretched. We can barely build a submarine a year, where China is outpacing us about 3 submarines a year. Their shipbuilding is phenomenal, good on them. We have got to get ourselves back on track. So that's the mission of Workshops for Warriors. We're here to train and certify veterans in welding and CNC machining. We want to get them into a career, men and women into a career who've served our country. We also take care of any veterans that are out there that need retraining. And we do have a small number of civilians that come through our course. And we plan on growing that. So let me highlight a few things. The 2024 Deloitte Study in Manufacturing Institute workforce study, most widely cited research industry. We're gonna, by 2025 to 2033, we're gonna be about 3.8 million manufacturing jobs are gonna be left open. As many as 1.9 million skilled positions are gonna go unfilled due to the widening skills and application gap. And let's face it, our workforce is aging. We're aging out. You know, I'm 66. You know, I'm pushing my retirement just because I love what I'm doing. I have a lot of passion for what I do. Workshops for Warriors is a skill bridge provider, so we can take service members from 180 days out, bring them into our program, get them that training that they need. We provide a 16-week training program, 640 hours. I don't even know if I'm supposed to move this thing along, but I'm just kind of focused here.
Yeah. Look down, but.
Oh, the down?
Yeah. You turned it off. There you go.
Down. There we go. So that's our mission right there. Provide quality training, education programs, and our third-party credentialing. So that's where our strength lies, getting people credentials. There's nothing worse than going through a program, spending thousands of dollars on a program, and then you leave there with a diploma, okay? What we're doing is we're providing credentials in American Welding Society. We're providing credentials in NIMS, National Industry Metalworking Skills. We're providing SolidWorks credentialing. We're providing MasterCam. And SolidWorks is a CAM program, or excuse me, a CAD program. So computer-aided design, and then we also have our MasterCam, which is our computer-aided manufacturing credentialing. So you learn those credentials, you earn those credentials, and that's money when you leave Workshops for Warriors. When you apply for a job, that's what you can put on your resume. That's what you can put in your toolbox when you go apply for that job. The welders actually earn welder qualifications. And some of you might or might not know, but that's a very laborious task. And they're in a welding booth for 640 hours. They're trying to get these qualifications done. It's frustrating and it's demanding. But they see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm there to help them. I'm talking to them all the time. I've got great trainers. Most of my trainers are all veterans. We're focused, laser focused on getting men and women into the workforce and serving their country again. So we're trying to, get them into the building ships and submarines and into aircraft. What else we got here? That's our future right there. That building, that's a rendition of our 3030 Advanced Manufacturing Campus, is on Main Street, 3030 Main Street. Our grand opening is August 15th. That's also a summer graduation day, so we've got a grand open ribbon cutting ceremony and a graduation at Workshops and Wares. You guys are invited. Just need to call in, RSVP, go on our website, wfw.org, you can sign up. And a couple things I want to bring to light and mention. 94% of our students are placed. We provide a placement. We have a full-time placement manager on site. We do career fairs on our campus once a semester. There's one coming up. Go to wfw.org. You can look it up. It's on our calendar. But it's a free table. Come in and recruit. A lot of companies take advantage of it. We've had SpaceX, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Los Alamos National Laboratories comes in, recruits all the time. Huntington Ingalls in Mississippi comes in. BAE Systems, the gun systems and all the other systems at BAE. We're laser focused on getting men and women out into the workforce. We also take the GI Bill, VRMB, and right now we were just audited for our accreditation through ASAT, and that should be coming here in the next couple of months. With that, we'll be able to take Title IV funds, meaning we'll be able to take students with their FAFSA application, and they'll be able to come in and sign up for school and get their 16-week training. And like Lindsay brought up with the shipbuilding, we're also working with the Deloitte. I can't talk about it, but I can tell you that we're working with them. There's a lot of eyeballs on these problems out there. We're also working with the CIV and the MIB, because they recognize what we are doing is making a difference with our country. We need to get men and women back into the trades, get them into great paying jobs, very good careers. There's not a dirty word anymore to get people into the trades. Trust me, I have a couple degrees, and I'm a journeyman welder, been welding 48 years. There's nothing wrong with getting men and women into that job, get their hands dirty, and make a good wage. San Diego is a very expensive place to live. They can do well here. And there's a few structural problems with pay. A lot of the new hires are disenchanted when they get to that first job. Typically, a lot of them don't stay there longer than 6 months to a year, and then they move on, unfortunately. They've trained probably a year or two in school, and then they go there, and it's kind of depressing, but there's hope. I think there's a lot of hope out there. I think this is a community that cares about our veterans, and we want to get our veterans back to work. And the last couple of things I want to talk about. So we do primarily take care of veterans, but we do have openings for civilian. So if you're a son, a daughter, a spouse, or whatever, a service member, or even just somebody off the street, if you want to sign up for the program, you can go to our website, wfw.org, fill out a student application, and you never know. Your dream might come true. You might get accepted. The other thing that we're trying to do is train the trainer. So like I said, I hire from within, but I also hire instructors from outside workshops. I'm looking for good talent in the machining and the welding programs. I've had military come through the program, and I've hired them from there to be teaching assistants or an instructor if they've got a lot of training background and they fit well, they work well with our team. Everybody, we run our organization like the military, but we're not the military, right? We have that rigor. We keep people, we have a good training pipeline for our instructors. So if you know people who are interested in being trainers, instructors in welding or CNC machining, that's another thing that I encourage people to come and check out our programs. All right, I'm going to open it up for any questions. Anybody have any questions?
Question.
Yes, sir.
So what's your current capacity and what will be your future capacity once the facility's open?
Okay, great. All great questions. Those numbers are kind of moving around right now. We've been putting together a bunch of reports and studies. The number for this building is about 360 students a year for the machining program. The welding program, we're looking at upwards, I believe it's around 900. We have another building. This is just going to be for the machining program. So we have another building that we're retrofitting down the street. We're going to be able to train, I think 186 welders a semester. So, and then that, we're going to probably run 2 shifts. So we're trying to push out as many welders as we can. So we have a lot of capability, and with the government supporting us, hopefully, we're going to be able to do a lot more with what we have. Our biggest problem is funding, and we're doing this organically, and we're trying to grow from within. So, great question. Anybody else have a question? Yes, sir.
Yes, as a young sailor getting out of the military or Marines, and I've lived on base, and I gotta get out and I gotta go home, but I want a 10-year program. How can I do that? Do y'all have housing and everything?
Great question. So currently we have about 1/3 of our student population in housing. We have a little house on property. We also have an apartment building next door, or right down the street within walking distance. As we grow, we know that about 40% of our students are going to need housing. And that's a heavy lift. So we've got wraparound services. We're willing to partner with the city and other organizations to make that happen. We have, currently wraparound services. Encourage to call you folks that have been on Workshops of Warriors. You come there and you've been really, really a godsend to help us out, and we need that. The students, some of them do get out. They can't take advantage of the skill bridge, so they come in and they're like, I need a place to stay. Well, we can provide that for them. If they don't have food, we can help them out with that. We do offer some stipends. We offer loans if they need it for schooling, and we partner with San Diego Food Bank, so we have a food bank on site. We have a clothing closet, so that helps them get dressed for success with the career fairs. And we do a lot of training events on site. We do resume writing. We do more than just a couple hours, or typically a few sessions, and then we do coaching, we do mentoring. We bring in Northrop Grumman, we'll bring in Boeing, we'll bring in other companies to get a perspective, have them take a look at our resumes and work with our students. So there's a lot of corporations that are interested in what we're doing. They want to give back. They want successful people that can come to work for them. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
Now, so do you guys offer placement?
So we do offer a career fair. We have a placement manager. So yes, we try to partner the students up. Now typically, most of our students don't come from San Diego, right? They're a mishmash of men and women across the country. They're here because they're on Camp Pendleton. They're here because they're on 32nd Street or North Island, they're here because they're serving their country. Typically, you know, they're gonna end up going back. So we try to get them back home if we can. If not, if they're, a lot of them are open to just staying here and working with a defense industry partner or a contractor like Boeing or Northrop Grumman. Yeah, I mean, no, that's kind of that.
Okay, and just a final question.
Yes.
What's the average salary that if a person gets all the certifications, and, you know, the whole enchilada, what's that average national salary?
Okay, so great question. About 60,000. I know I had that written down here. I didn't talk about it, but that's where we're asking questions. So about $60,000. I think it's upwards around 64,000. So if you go, well, that's not so great in San Diego, right? But those numbers will quickly go up. Why? Because the workforce is aging out. Two, most people that have served in the military are gonna end up being great managers and supervisors because they have the leadership skills. They know how to get to work on time. They know what working in teams does. They know what getting tasks done, getting things done on time, that means money. So they're gonna rapidly move up into the workforce, and that's gonna equate into pay raises, salary increases, you know, benefits. So most of our candidates, you know, they'll move in, start welding at a company, and within a year, they're already running the shop. So I'm always talking to my students about that. It's like, you might get into that job. It's not gonna be a dead-end job unless that's what you wanna do, but you have mobility. Now, the other thing I talk about with the students is you might be training to be a welder, but welding has so many facets, right? You could become a welder's equipment salesperson. If you don't wanna get dirty, you wanna walk around and sell things to people, a lot of our vendors, West Air Gases, Air Gas, Lindy, they're all looking for good people at their counters and their outside and inside sales. You might want to be a non-destructive test inspector. That's another avenue the students can go into, right? So there's a lot of different areas that the students can move into just from the welding program. The CNC machine program, they can get into inspections. They can get into you know, quality control. There's a lot of different avenues that we prepare our students for. Any other questions? I'll be around. Yes, ma'am.
Well, this is just kind of to cap on what you're
Yeah.
saying, and also just kind of to Maurice. I think something else that I've been really interested in is your point of the aging population, right? When we talk about small business, we're talking about small mom and pop shops who have no succession planning and they don't know what's going to happen. So you might have somebody who runs a little CNC shop and he doesn't have any plans, and so I could see veterans with the drive and ambition buy the business, you know? So like there's some opportunities, I think, with Reboot and with all these organizations, that potential kind of like combining this with entrepreneurship and being able to like buy your own business, you know, things like that.
Right, so a lot of our students come in with the aspirations of owning a business. Now, I have a student that graduated about in 2015, came through the program, he ended up moving back, him and his wife were both Marines. They moved back to Texas, and his idea, he wanted to own a rig, a welding rig. Well, guess what? He came back last year, he talked to our student population, and he had a slideshow, he talked through the whole thing, and one of the students raised his hand, he goes, how much money do you make a year? And he goes, I make over $200,000 a year. And I graduated from Workshops for Warriors, and Lyle was my instructor. And that was one of my proudest moments, right? That's a success story, right? That's one of hundreds, right? I've been there since our inception. So this is not about me, it's about getting men and women into the workforce, showing them that there is a career path, that they can make a difference, they can make this new career something, not just a dream, but a reality, right? So I have hundreds of those. I have kids come, men and women, I call them kids, but they come in and they sign up and they go, I want to own a rig, and I'll put them in touch with Mike. Mike's that young man that's in Texas. And they talk to them, next thing you know, they're buying a truck, and they're buying welding equipment, and they're making their dreams happen. So, you know, those things are possible, and we just need to be there, support them, open the door, and give them the training.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, some great stuff there, huh?
Mhm.
So look, we're coming down to the wire, and just going forward, let's kind of close it out real quickly here. If you need help figuring out what's next, finding your fit, fill out this form right here, and we'll get busy. Talk to Eric. He'll share what he's been going through with the process, how the process is working for him. We do a AI scan, and then once we've done that, we do kind of like a one-on-one analysis, and then we assign him a coach. He's now working with Chuck over at Work for Warriors on the placement piece. We bring the team out there and wrap you around with everybody. So again, it's about the team. And in the future, if things continue to go well, we'll even be connecting people with coaches like Keith. So again, nobody does anything alone. It's a team approach there. So sign up for that. Number two, other things that we call these tools to help you manage your transition, from managing your transition timeline, which is a personal automation app, to Onward Ops, which is something that facilitates the warm handoff from where you are to a community sponsor, as well as using what we call the job set automation or AI to help map you and match you to jobs. So again, this is where the future's going. It's all leading in that direction of technology and automation. We want to collect the data, use the data to help you achieve your high level of success. And then finally, okay, we launched our STAR program. We're now expanding STAR beyond the Navy to the Marine Corps and others. And so you can see now we have a family of stars, from the Navy to the Marine Corps to the Army, Coast Guard, as well as Air Force. So everybody's jumping on board, and they're all becoming stars. And again, this is another way to automate the process and again create a seamless transition by bringing the community in. As far as the future, what's next? Save the date for next month. Next month we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. Then in August we'll get into financial services, and then we'll start rebuilding our final end of the year foray of future workshops and discussions. But again, this is what we're doing. We do this every fourth Friday of the month. Please tell others about this. We might even open this up and go beyond senior listed to everyone else, because again, the information is invaluable, and it's all one of those things that everybody just needs to know. And on that note, let's go to the last one. We want to thank you for coming out and joining us. It is exactly 9 o'clock, and so as we said, we start on time and finish on time. I want to thank you all. Be safe out there, drive safely if you're driving out there, and please share this information with others. And on that note, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And speakers, thank you as well.